Hi everyone, it's Conrad Bobilek here, CEO of Investors Prime Real Estate and best-selling international author of Australian Real Estate Investing Made Simple. Welcome to today's video. I'm really excited about this video. And a lot of times I get phone calls from clients saying, what's the cheapest property that you source? And that's a really dangerous question because cheapest doesn't necessarily mean the best. I know they're asking the question about serviceability, but there's a lot of inherent problems with buying the cheapest property in the cheapest suburbs. And a lot of the times, and look, most of the properties that I source currently are between kind of 1.2 to 1.5 million. So I completely understand the challenges in securing investment properties in Melbourne. In fact, Melbourne in the last 2 years has gone up by 30 to 40% in the best suburbs. Plus serviceability, well, we've had 14 increases in interest rates. So it's been a complete disaster for property investors and the average income earners to secure properties. And that's why a lot of people are turning towards the cheaper suburbs like Frankston, St. Albans, Glenroy. And these are disaster areas, guys. So I wanted to make a video just to show you what's the bare minimum cheapest suburb. And I'm talking about income demographics here that you should be looking at as a property investor without going to the absolute bottom and then having all the inherent problems that come with those suburbs. So welcome to today's video. I hope you enjoy it. And it's a very timely video because I think a lot of people are going to be going to these suburbs with their eyes closed. And I've been around for 25 years now looking at the problems with these suburbs. So I want to spare you the heartache and the pain associated with investing in some of these suburbs. Now, I must warn you, this is going to be a bit of a controversial video because a lot of people that live there or have investment properties there might not agree with me. I don't care. I never have. Okay, I'm right, you're wrong. So welcome to today's video. And we're going to talk about the top 10 cheapest suburbs with long-term capital growth potential. So we're not just talking about cheap, because there's an old saying in real estate investing, cheap today, cheap tomorrow. We're talking about cheap, affordable, with a massive upswing potential, but also the key is growth potential. Because obviously the reason we're here, the reason I do this YouTube video is to teach you guys how to make money and how to avoid mistakes, because mistakes, remember, in property are very costly. Tens of thousands of dollars, if not hundreds of thousands, and you can lose a decade of your life. And I've seen marriages break up and relationships break up over property arguments. So this is a huge area, and I want to share some really cool information with you today. I hope you enjoy this video. Before we get started, disclaimer, I'm not going to be insulting your intelligence to tell you that anything you do or hear on this video is going to make you any money whatsoever. I don't know you, I've never met you, I've never assessed your financial situation, so it's all just educational purposes only. Before you do anything, speak to a professional, qualified expert, mortgage broker / lawyer / accountant, financial planner before you do anything. Now, having said that, I can tell you the reality of investing is that if you make these mistakes, guys, I'm going to show you some photos of properties that have been destroyed on this video. You're going to have such a bad experience. And I've seen people buy the wrong property at the wrong time in the wrong market and have such a negative experience, they never go back in investing. And that's a very unfortunate thing because property investing is a wonderful thing. For me personally, my life has been transformed into property investing. I mean, the quality of life that I have, the holidays, the cars, all that stuff that comes with it, it's phenomenal, but it took decades to set up and decades to do correctly. And that's why, as humanity, that's how we progress. We learn from the mistakes and from the wisdom of previous generations, and we use that information to our benefit. About myself a little bit. So I've got obviously on my YouTube channel. Thank you very much. And by the way, subscribe to my YouTube channel. Help me out with the algorithm. The more people I have subscribed, the more frequently I will create contents. And I'm planning to do one video a week. If I get to 100,000 subscriptions, and then if I get to 1 million, hell, I'll do 2 a week, maybe. Now, I've got a diploma in financial services, real estate, mortgage broking, financial planning. But also the most important thing, guys, is I'm a property investor like yourselves in Melbourne, in the property market. I've been doing this for a long time. I'm 47, 25 years of investing and working in the financial services sector, banking, financial planning, funds management, and also mortgage broking. So I kind of can see things from different perspectives. A lot of experts out there are very one-dimensional. There is an accountant and they see everything for tax and depreciation, or there could be a mortgage broker, they see everything in terms of finance, or there could be a real estate agent, they see everything in terms of value allocation. The advantage of listening to my information, guys, is that I've got experience in diverse industries, but all in the financial services sector. And I'm an investor myself, so I can kind of put on different hats and look at things objectively without any bias and give you the correct information. I'm also a best-selling author, and my book has gone international #1 many times on Amazon and various bookshops, and I've got various awards. I won't bore you to death with it, but you can see that #1. And my finance book has done really well as well. I've been #1 in my real estate investing made simple finance book, as well as the property investing book, which is really cool. So I want to thank you guys for buying my book, because when you do publish a book, you hope someone's going to buy it apart from your mum. If you want to get a copy of my real estate investing book, jump onto realestatemadesimple.com.au. You get a bunch of freebies there, including an online video course, and the same with my book on finance.com.au website, or you can go to any good bookshop or Amazon or even eBay, get them secondhand and save some trees. I highly recommend it. Also, guys, just because you're here, this is a special bonus that I'm going to give you, which is access to an online video course, which is a recording of my 2-day fast track weekend from a few years ago, valued at $500. I don't even know how to value these things. I mean, if you implement the information that I cover, it can be worth millions for you. If you don't implement it, it's worth zero. So, it's hard to put a price on these things, but it is full on. It's an online video course. You can access that by going down at the bottom of this video. There's a link. And there's no catches, no upsells, nothing to jump through, no kind of special challenges. You just literally just sign in and watch and educate yourself. So if you believe the contents on my YouTube channel is of value to you, then highly recommend that you watch this online video course. It's 70% still current. I mean, the market's moved on. This was shot just at the beginning of COVID, different environment. But look, fundamentally, nothing's changed. Fundamentals of property investing have remained the same for the last 10 years. It's just the landscape changes, interest rates, a bit of legislation. The big things are still the same. Elwood's Elwood is a great area to invest in, and St. Albans is a no-go zone. Okay, that's never going to change. Now, let's get into property. So before we get into cheap suburbs that make kind of sense to invest in, let's cover the basics of what are the key determining factors that drive capital growth. And really what I call the lifestyle triangle. It used to be distance to the city. And yes, before COVID, it was definitely distance to the city in Melbourne and distance to water, and same in Sydney. But because people now are working from home and they're working a couple of hours or a couple of days in the office, things have changed massively in terms of where growth potential is available in Melbourne. So really what I like to talk about the lifestyle triangle is really, it's the time it takes a person to drive from home to work, to school, if you've got kids, or lifestyle areas like cafe strips and shopping, and then back home. Okay, so it's not so much the distance so much, it's actually the time. Because you can be around the corner from somewhere, you can be trapped in traffic for half an hour, and you can be, 20 Ks from a place, but if you've got good access to highways and freeways, you can be there in 10 minutes. So then what does this mean? It means this. Let's say you're working, I'm going to choose Bentley. Let's say your home is in Bentley and you work in Moorabbin in the business park, and then your kids go to Our Lady of Sacred Heart in Bentley. So you've got home to work is 7 minutes, school to home is like 6 minutes, and then back from school to home is like 8 minutes. Okay, I'll work out that mathematically. So your lifestyle triangle is pretty cool, and then shopping is Centre Road in Bentley, which is like 8 minutes away from your house. So you've got a really good lifestyle because you're not trapped in the car all day long. Like if you're working, for example, if you lived in Pakenham and you worked in Moorabbin, and your kids went to Our Lady of Sacred Heart in Bentley, you'd be pretty miserable because it'll take you 45 minutes to an hour just to drive from Pakenham and peak hour traffic to Bentley and back. So that's not a good lifestyle triangle. So lifestyle triangle is basically the convenience that people will pay for to have their job, infrastructure, everything in one place. So they work, rest, and play and live. Okay, so that's what it is. That's why a lot of areas that are further away from the city are doing really well, because people can do everything in those areas. Like, for example, Kew, or Eltham. Eltham, people work in Eltham, they have schools in Eltham, and they live in Eltham. They don't need to get to the city, they don't need to go anywhere else. Donvale's another area, for example. Great schools, great location for lifestyle, and great amenities. Mornington Peninsula, okay? So if you're living in Mornington Peninsula or Mornington, the suburb, you've got schools there, you can work there, and you also live there. So basically, the stronger the lifestyle triangle, the more premium people will pay for a suburb. And there's other factors as well. In fact, I've done a YouTube video on the 10 fundamental things that make a suburb what it is. You know, we talk about prestige, crime, school zones, etc., distance from the city, distance to water, etc. The interesting thing about Melbourne is that people think that everyone works in the city, but it's not true. Only about 20% of jobs in Melbourne are in the central business district. The rest are scattered throughout Melbourne in business parks and centres. And these are some of the biggest ones in Melbourne. So you've got Footscray, Sunshine, Tullamarine, Broadmeadows. Now, these are predominantly blue-collar, areas of activity, if you call it, or major job hubs. So obviously Tullamarine, you got the airport, so you got thousands of people working at the airport, and also just airport parking, airport buses, all the other flow-on businesses that kind of thrive on top of that industry. Broadmeadows is the same. There's a lot of factories in Broadmeadows, so there's a major employment hub. Then when you go through to Greensboro, Latrobe, Heidelberg, you've got concentrations of people that where they work, and that could be university centres. It could be also business parks. Kew has a major one, and Kew is particularly good because it's close to the city and it's all white-collar professionals. So you have a lot of business centres where there's accounting firms, legal firms, marketing firms, and a combination of white-collar and blue-collar professionals as well. Clayton's a major hub. Clayton's got everything from white-collar, blue-collar industry, factories, you know, from your panel beater to your accounting firm, to your marketing firm, to your lawyers, to retail, to industrial. I mean, it's got everything. Moorabbin's the same, Daniel. So if you're living in Clayton, for example, let's say you live in Clayton, you've got a home in Clayton, your kids go to Monash University, and then you work in Clayton, Monash. I mean, your lifestyle triangle is going to be very strong. Ringwood's another area. Ringwood's great suburb, very leafy. I love the eastern leafy suburbs. That's one of the problems with the Bayside. And I grew up in Milton Street, Elwood, and I lived in St Kilda most of my life. Look, there's not many trees in St Kilda. There are definitely tree-lined streets, like Mary Street in St Kilda West, but the Bayside has less trees per square metre than the eastern suburbs and the far eastern suburbs, and that's the attraction of the southeast and the eastern suburbs, just more greener, the air is fresher. So Ringwood's a great suburb. Ringwood does really well, even though it's further away from the city. There's major job centres around Ringwood. It's all pretty much white-collar professionals, so accounting, legal, financial planning, marketing. There's definitely industrial sections as well. And there's good schools. I wouldn't say the best schools. They're good schools, solid. And obviously prices are good because blocks are large. People get away from people. They go to Ringwood East, for example, great suburb. So basically, that's what kind of drives it. So the lifestyle triangle. So what I want to do, guys, is share with you what I think is the bare minimum entry level into the cheaper suburbs that you're still getting value for money. And I'm going to go through them individually, rank them from 1 to 10, and then I'm going to show you actual properties that I've sourced in those areas where you can still get good value for money. You're not compromising the lifestyle triangle, and you're still getting very solid capital growth and good rental yields without the danger of having your property destroyed maliciously by your tenants. And so the interesting is that 80% of the jobs in Melbourne are actually outside of the central business district in major activity centres. So this is the biggest ones. You know, your Clayton, Tullamarine, Hawthorn, Kew, Box Hill, St Kilda, Moorabbin, Heidelberg, Malvern, Bayswater, Dandenong, Footscray, Glen Waverley, Frankston, Glen Iris. Don't invest in Frankston. Malvern East, Hyatt, Ringwood, Wanturna South, Moonee Ponds, Latrobe University, Narre Warren, Burwood East, Oakley, Greensboro, Broadmeadows, don't touch Broadmeadows, Blackburn, Heathmont, Sunshine, Preston, and Northland. So, you know, if any of these suburbs are fine, because there'll be a percentage of people that need to be there. They work in the suburb, except for Frankston, Broadmeadows, and you can buy properties there and you'll make good money without getting them destroyed. Now, remember, Melbourne and Sydney real estate is priced based on the distance from the central business district and the sea. And you can see there the most expensive properties in Melbourne are kind of in the eastern, southeast, a Bayside area, you know, by medium price. The dark patches here on the heat map represent the most expensive properties, and then the lightest patches represent the cheapest properties. So you can see there's a high concentration disproportionately into the east and the southeast and the Bayside in terms of money. And with that comes prestige, safety, school zones, shopping, etc., etc. Sydney's the same. Sydney's geographically landlocked in every direction, but you can see that you got the same kind of a pattern. You've got the western suburbs just like we have in Melbourne, except Melbourne isn't as fragmented as Sydney is. I mean, the North Shore in Sydney, you know, and then you look at Double Bay, and then you look at some of the western suburbs. I mean, the disparity in wealth is huge. It's like 30 million and like 1.5 to 2 million. Melbourne hasn't got that yet. It's very graduated. We haven't got that division of wealth yet, but it's coming. It's definitely coming because Sydney is like a future 10-year perspective on what's going to happen in Melbourne. So there's a lot of opportunities in Melbourne. Look, Sydney, I think Sydney is prettier than Melbourne. The Darling Harbour and all those houses on those hills overlooking the ocean, those little boats and the Sydney Opera House, all that's wonderful. Except the rentals don't work in Sydney. You can't make the mathematical rentals work because you're spending $5 million for a house, you're going to get a rental yield of 1.5%. I mean, unless you've got a massive tax problem and you're making $1 million a year, it's unsustainable. See, in Melbourne, you can still buy into really good suburbs like your Brighton and your Hawthorns, and you get 4.5% rental yield on specific properties. So that's why Melbourne actually works. The top end works in Melbourne. In Sydney, it's so expensive. There's no one's gonna rent those properties. That ship has sailed maybe 10 years ago. So the question is then, in terms of median price, let's have a look at the distance from the city and the median price between Melbourne and where we are. So 0 to 5 kilometers, you can see there, distance from central business district, and you can see the median price in Melbourne 1.568 million. Sydney's 2.4. I mean, Sydney's $1 million more expensive than Melbourne, and then as you get into more prestigious areas, you just escalate even further. And then the difference between Melbourne and Sydney is 37%. But let's focus on Melbourne because this is a video more about Melbourne. So 1.56 million is the median price. Once you get to 5 to 10 kilometers from the city, the median price drops by -3% to 1.515. Which is still fine, not bad. And then 10 to 15 Ks, the median price drops by 19% to 1.267. So 10 to 15 kilometers. So remember the 15 kilometers. When you get to 15 kilometers to 20 kilometers, it drops by 42% in terms of the median price to 907,000. So it's almost like the cutoff in Melbourne is roughly that 15 Ks, radius around the city, and once you get over that 15K, then it kind of goes down dramatically in terms of median price. Now remember, median price is just the middle property, but it's an indicator of price points in these suburbs. Then you get to 20 to 25Ks, median price is 843,000 minus 46%. So from the original 0 to 5 kilometer radius. 25 to 30Ks, 52. And then 56, and then 62, 35 to 40. So really the biggest drop is kind of, you can see there, from 15 to 20, it goes from 1.26 down to 907. So it goes down by $360,000, like just massive cliff, okay? So if we're aiming for the cheapest suburbs, ideally, you want to be within a 10 to 15K radius, not the 15 to 20K radius, okay? Ideally, I'm saying, okay? There are exceptions to the rule because there's more pressure on those properties. And the other thing, guys, is if you look at the circles in Melbourne, remember the radius of the circle is smaller as you get closer to the city. So there's less suburbs and less density of houses as you go out. Sorry, not density of houses, number of houses, because the circle is smaller in actual surface area. As the circles get bigger, there's more actual surface area. Okay, so that's why there's more pressure on the circles or suburbs closer to the city, because literally there's less square meters available in that circle compared to an outer circle. Okay, so if you measure the square meters in those suburbs, you'll find that there's less properties available. So these are Victorian postcodes with the highest average taxable income. So let's look at first where the rich live. Hawke's-Burn, Toorak, Portsea, Albert Park, Middle Park, Brighton North. Then you got your Kooyong, Malvern North, East Melbourne, Mount Macedon, Armidale North, Somerton, and then you got a bunch of other suburbs, including Hawthorn, Glenferrie, etc. Right? But really, like in Melbourne, you got Toorak and Brighton as the main key suburbs. Don't forget that these are income that's taxable and declared income. A lot of people in Toorak and Hawthorn and Brighton have trusts, and even though the businesses could be making millions of dollars, they pay themselves the minimum wage just to have some money available for coffee and shopping. But really, everything goes through their trust and companies. So I know surgeons in Toorak that make $2 million a year, but they pay themselves $30,000 wage just so they can do the laundry and have a coffee and do some shopping, and the rest goes through trusts and various structures to pay for their houses, cars, holidays, everything. So rich people don't declare a lot of income. It's the middle class and lower class that pay majority of the tax in Australia. Always remember that. And the same system is available to everyone. So it's not their fault. They're just more informed. And the rich and the rich are more informed than the poor, and the working class are uninformed, and they just keep working overtime and paying more tax. These are the cheapest suburbs in medium price in Victoria. This is not in Melbourne, it's in Victoria. Now, some of these regional towns are tiny. They're 5,000 people, 6,000 people. I wouldn't touch regional town, guys, unless there's 50,000 people in the regional town, because then you know it's not going away anytime soon, you know? So I think the best regional towns in Melbourne, in Victoria, are Bendigo, Ballarat, Shepparton, you know, Warrnambool, and then you can go to coastal towns as well. But I wouldn't go into tiny little towns in the middle of nowhere, you know, where there's 6,000 people. That town could shut down. You'll be stuck with your vacant property, and then you're going to write that off as a loss. Now, so let's talk about Melbourne's richest and poorest suburbs in terms of the contrast that we have. And this is actually from the Australian Bureau of Statistics. And you can see this is Victorian top 10 most advantaged suburbs. Advantaged suburb means you've got income, demographics, the highest level, prestige, schools, transport, access to restaurants and safety, and low violence and crime. So East Melbourne, Glen Iris, Surrey Hills, Toorak, Brighton, Ivanhoe, South Sierra, Campbell, Beaumaris, Albert Park. Phenomenal suburbs. In fact, guys, if you just build your whole portfolio and buy townhouses and houses, not apartments don't work, in these top 10 suburbs, you don't need to learn anything more about Melbourne. Like literally, I guarantee it, you outperform 99% of all investors out there. If you just buy properties in Brighton, Toorak, Surrey Hills, Glen Iris, East Melbourne, Campbell, Beaumaris, Albert Park, forget about it. You know, like you'll be the top 0.1% of suburbs in Melbourne in terms of capital growth potential. These are the most disadvantaged suburbs. This is the Australian Bureau of Statistics. Don't ring me or send me emails. Okay, I don't care. I didn't create these suburbs. Broadmeadows, Corio, Norlane. Jesus. I used to look after Norlane, which is a suburb just in front of Geelong. I used to look after the dental clinic there. And when I used to drive my BMW through there, oh, Jesus. People thought that the main drug dealer in town has come in with a new supply. A horrible area. Morwell, Breeside, Doveton, Meadow Heights, and then St Albans South and North, which is very different from each other. St Albans South and North are different because the Comancheros look after the South and the Hells Angels look after the North. I'm just kidding. The same bad area. So these are the most disadvantaged suburbs. Now, does that mean that they represent good value? Does it mean that they are going to experience gentrification? Does it mean that it's a good opportunity to buy there because they're so cheap? Well, I don't know. That's a good question, right? For me personally, I wouldn't touch them with a 10-foot pole. I don't even want to drive through these suburbs, to be honest with you. My S6 63 AMG Mercedes, my car actually gives me a warning saying, "Sir, we're approaching Broadmeadows. I highly recommend you divert your car and turn back to civilization." And you got to kind of override the system, you know. No, we're going straight, you know, and shut things down. And the car just doesn't want to. It just doesn't want to drive there. Just kidding. Don't ring me if you live in Broadmeadows. I don't care. I never have. What are the risks of buying investment property in disadvantaged areas? Well, you're dealing with disadvantaged people. Now, what makes up disadvantaged suburbs? Disadvantaged people that are broke and dumb, really. I mean, look, there's no other way of putting it. If they're rich and smart, they would be living in a normal suburb, right? No one in Toorak wakes up one day and go, "Honey, you know, we're enjoying Irving Road here, you know, a $6 million mansion. I think we should go and live in Frankston for a while and see what the other side looks like. And you know, we'll just get some bulletproof vests and we get some armed guards. Come on. Let's look at reality, guys. You know, the most damaged property in Melbourne is for rent for people that buy a 4-bedroom house and land packages, and the rent is about $400 to $400 and below per week. Right. And what they do is they go in, and this is why it's so important, guys, to get a really good property manager that knows how to screen the history of tenants. No mobile numbers, right? If there's any story about, oh, from the UK and I've never rented before, I had a private landlord, yeah, my mate. No. You've got to be in a system. You've got to be renting from normal real estate agencies with a track record of renting and getting your bond returned in full. And you want your property manager to ring the previous property manager. Never offer your rentals to a person who has never rented before and has no history. It's a massive risk. You're playing Russian roulette. They've got to have a history of. So I'm not judging people. You can be renting in. I'm sure there's legitimate families in Broadmeadows. Okay, in in all fairness, right? And I'm sure they're responsible, normal people that pay taxes, they go to work, and they have very clean houses. I'm sure there's many families like that in Broadmeadows, right? But you got to check who they are. So you got to be able to, they've got to be able to provide you details of the previous tenancy, and then they've left it in an accurate state. Now, these are photos from one of my friends who recently, who bought an old house in a good street in a good suburb. They rented it. They're going to renovate the property. And when the guy did a run out, this is what they found. And this is real photos from their mobile phone. And this was one person living in this property. And that person obviously had a drinking problem. I don't know if it's a problem. It's actually an accomplishment, if you ask me. Yeah. Let's get more of these properties, guys. Yeah, because it's a good area. Look at that. Now, funnily enough, when they actually sold all these cans, they made $3,500 from recycling. And underneath the cans, there was furniture buried. Like there was, I don't even know how this person wouldn't be able to use the kitchen or the bed. They kind of just, I don't even know how can you function like that? This is another property, which is another person, a client of mine. And then, yeah, that's what they're going through now. But this person here, I mean, that is the accomplishment. Like I'm Polish. I love drinking beer and vodka, and I've seen some really bad places. When I was a teenager and we were renting, you know, you got mates, single mates renting, 2 or 3 mates, and you don't clean up the place. That's a whole new level. That's yeah, that's interesting. Okay, now imagine that's your first property, and it's going to cost you $5,000 to clean it up. You keep the bond, obviously, but the bond wouldn't cover it. Ironically, the recycling covered a lot of the cost of getting everything cleaned up. What happens if they punch holes through the wall and destroy your property? Have you ever seen a dentist in Brighton that's renting a townhouse for $1,000 a week or $1,500 a week, dual runner, and they punch holes in the walls and graffiti the walls? No, it's not going to happen. It's going to be a factory worker. All right, it's going to be some person that has a low social standard and setting. A normal human being wouldn't do this. You know, so you've got to make sure. And why I'm telling you guys is because if you do this, especially for the younger ones that are listening, right, you're going to go to like Broadmeadows and get a property and then leave it like this. You're never going to invest again, because your reality is this is what property investing is about. It's not about this at all. So the reason I did this video is to show you what I think are the minimum suburbs to get into and the rentals to make sure this doesn't happen to you. Because when it does happen to you guys, you know, we can laugh about it now, but when it's your property, you're not laughing, you're traumatized. The second risk is rent, because obviously especially with COVID-19, if you look at the most volatile sectors in the economy, manufacturing, factory workers, hospitality, cafes, restaurants, gyms, people lost their jobs. It was so interesting, guys, because even with apartments, and I've sold a lot of apartments around Elwood, St Kilda, where they work, St Kilda West, St Kilda East. And during COVID-19, there was a period of time, I'm not sure if you remember, but the government allowed tenants not to pay rent for 6 months, okay? And then the landlords couldn't evict them. So I went, oh, crap. So I went to Cameron Fisher, who looks after probably 80% of all my clients' properties, with Vanessa Fisher from Changing Places Real Estate. And I asked him, how many of my properties that I've sourced for my clients in the last 10 years applied for this non-payment period? And he said none. I said, come on, there's got to be one, because I source about you know, over 100 properties per year for my clients. So there's got to be, like, you know, you're getting to 1,000 properties that I've sourced over the last 10 years. Surely there has to be like at least 1%, I was thinking. He said, no, not even one, 0. And I went, thank God, and I realized it's such a good thing that I was sourcing in those high-end suburbs and high-end rent, because none of my clients did that. Many clients that did house and land packages in all the estates from Trigonina, Tarneit, Point Cork up to, you know, Roxborough Park, South Morang down to Packet and Berwick, they had many properties where tenants could not pay rent, they lost their jobs, or they couldn't get to work because they're in lockdown and they couldn't perform their job inside the property. So any manufacturing job, any factory worker, how can you make a car from sitting around the house? But if you're working in banking and finance, you're doing Zoom and Teams, you can continue with your work. So ironically, what happened was medical sector continued to function normally, which I focus on a lot as an investor. Business owners in the white collar professionals, banking and finance, accounting, marketing, and legal, they actually were very productive because they're all just on Zoom. personally myself, I was busier during COVID than any other time because I never used Zoom before. And I started to use Zoom, and then everyone was talking to me on Zoom all the time. So I was doing 2 times more consultations per day from home than I was doing in the office. See, when I was in the office before Zoom and I was there for let's say 8 hours a day, I only ever did 3 or 4 hours of work. The rest of the time you walk around, people talk to you, you go for a 2 hour lunch, you're wasting so much time in the office. You know yourself, you go to social media. But when I'm at home, I'll be in my office where I am right now, and there's no one around. I just work. I don't have any downtime. So ironically, in my industry during COVID, I was more productive and I did more transactions and spoke to more clients every day than I did before COVID. So as an investor, you've got to be aware of, if you're buying into a suburb, who lives in the area, what's the most dominant type of rental market, what's their background, where they work, and who should you attract to your property to make sure that when things are good, things are always good. But when things go bad, i.e. recession, COVID, or other viruses, you're protected. You're not exposed to those sectors. That's the thing, guys. Remember, Warren Buffett says when the tide goes out, very quickly you find out who's swimming naked. So in terms of what do you focus on? There's apartments, townhouses, and house and land, okay? Apartments are a disaster in Melbourne, okay? They're a complete failure. Docklands is a disaster. It's empty. No one wants to be there, right? I mean, even you go down to Docklands to Harbour Town, which has changed names now. I don't even know what it's called. And every time I go there, I went there. I remember when Tilly my daughter's 12 now, I'm just going to 13 this week. But when she was born, she was about 1, we went to Docklands, Harbour Town, and around 10% of the shops were closed. We parked. We paid $45 for parking. We're walking down. Half the shops are empty. It's the same shops that I have in my shopping centre, which is Doncaster Shopping Centre. And then after about half an hour, I said, why do we come here again? And she goes, I have no idea. I said, can we never come here again? She goes, yep. I said, it's such a waste of time. They're the same shops we have in Doncaster, except the food court is rubbish and there's no people around. And then when Tiliana was 6, I said to my wife, hey, honey, let's do something in the city. She goes, yeah, we've been to the city for ages. Why don't we go down to Docklands, see what's there? Fantastic idea. So we went down to Harbour Town again, whatever it's called now, parked the car, paid $60 for parking, right? There's no parking there. Walked down to the main shopping strip there. 30% of the shops are closed, right? It's the same rubbish shops that we have in our shopping centre in Doncaster. And then I go to her after about half an hour. I said, why do we come here again? And she says, I have no idea. Can we never come back here again? She goes, absolutely. And then, during COVID, we had a period of open. And we were bored. We go, let's get to the city. So we went to the city, and this time 60% of the shops were closed. Okay. We parked and we went, you know what? Let's get out of here and go down to Chapel Street. So we got out of Docklands, went down to Chapel Street and had a blast because Chapel Street's phenomenal. It's a complete failure. No one's living in these apartments. There's no community in these apartments. No one knows anyone. There's little people sitting there on the laptops, not communicating with anyone. It's a disaster, guys. Okay. There's no value in buying apartments. And I've seen people buy apartments in Docklands 10 years ago, 2-bedroom, 2 bathrooms, 1-car garage, 75 square meters with views that can be built out, right? So you're facing the water. I've seen people pay $750 10 years ago. Now they're worth $690, and you're paying $4,000 a year in Border Corporate. It's a complete joke. I've done other videos on apartments, guys. Watch them. It's avoid it like a Teen Arena concert, guys. Townhouses are it because you're getting the suburb, but you're getting a property with a small footprint of land. Because remember, land tax is a killer now. If you want to buy 1,000 square meter blocks of land in Melbourne, the tax will kill you. So a townhouse usually has a footprint of 100 square meters, 150, 200, whatever it is. So, you're getting the best of both worlds. You're getting high depreciation, low land tax, and high rental yield. That's why you can buy a bunch of them. And you're getting the suburb. You're buying into the Bentleys, the Armadales, the Turaks, the Brightons. House and land, complete disaster. I mean, we're building slums of tomorrow on the outskirts of Melbourne. No infrastructure. The youths are restless. They're out at night, roaming the streets, breaking into properties. All those dickheads that are doing home invasions. Where do you think they live? In Brighton and Hawthorn? They live in the shit suburbs of Melbourne. And then people worry, why? I can't believe my child did a home invasion. Well, look after your kids. And, sometimes the parents can't even do that because they're working full time in holding 2 jobs. So there is challenges, but who wants to live out there? The other thing, it gets hot because all the roofs are black. There's no land anymore. So the advantage of house and land is you get a big block of land, you know. So in the 60s, house and land was cool because you buy a house and land and you get 1,000 square meters of land. Now they're selling in Point Cook 250 square meters of blocks of land. What's the point of doing a house and land with 250 square meters? It's not a house and land anymore, guys. It's a detached townhouse in an area with nothing in it. So you know, in terms of investing, guys, it's going to be the slums of tomorrow. No wants to live in these suburbs. You know, even the only ones that live there are migrants that come over because they don't know any better. They buy there and they get a bargain. And look, in all fairness, these houses are beautiful houses, right? If you go to a Metricon signature series house in Point Cook, I mean, it looks phenomenal, right? So I'm not questioning the build and the value. And I understand if you're from, you know, from Eastern Europe, I'm from Poland and I'm a migrant, or you come from India or China, you know, you're living in a tiny little place somewhere or in older properties, you go to a brand new 5-bedroom house, it's like a mansion. But then you have to live in the area. The areas are dysfunctional. And that's the challenge. It's bad planning from the government, from the state and local government is bad planning and greedy developers. So to me, house and land, you won't lose money. You know, I don't want you guys ringing me saying I bought a house in Tunhead and I know you've made money, but if you bought in in Yarraville or Richmond, you would have tripled your money in the same time. So what I'm saying is you always got to look at opportunity cost of buying something versus something else. And because you've got limited borrowing capacity and limited resources, you want to be smart with your money. So yes, you can't lose money on land in Australia, even in the worst suburbs. You know, let's say in the Northern Territory, but in Melbourne and Sydney, anywhere on the outskirts, because inflation is growing at 4% and the cost of manufacturing a block of land is always escalating and building materials are going up, you're going to make your 4% no matter what, right? So I'm not saying you're going to lose money, but what I'm saying is you're not optimizing, you're not maximizing what you're doing. And this YouTube channel is all about maximization. It's about getting getting your dollar to go further to get the maximum return so you can compound that over and over and over and replace your income and have a good life. That's what I'm trying to teach people. So please don't send me emails that you live in Point Cook and you're offended. I didn't create Point Cook. I've never developed Point Cook. If you want to be angry at someone in Point Cook, be angry at the developers. They haven't put enough parklands and infrastructure, enough parking at Point Cook station, train station. They're the ones I'll be contacting. Don't ring me because I didn't design the suburb. So top performing Melbourne suburb homes are earning more than their owners. So check this out. This is so interesting. These are areas where the average person is actually making more out of their property last year than they made in their job. So Fitzroy, median 1.6 million, 16% growth. So if you do the numbers, that's more than people earn per year in Fitzroy. Burwood, Maribyrnong, Chatston, you know, so if you're 11% on the 1.2, it's 120,000. Mont Albert, that's 170,000 income. So they made more out of their home than their income. South Yarra, Lower Plenty, Baldwin, Vermont South, Killor. These are good suburbs. Even Killor, which used to be a new house and land estates, because now it was new, but it's large blocks. It's very established now. You know, Vermont South's always been really upmarket, huge blocks. You know, very kind of a Sleepy Hollow, very kind of older area now, but very good schools, very good transport. Baldwin, well, what can I say? Baldwin's been one of the top 10 suburbs in Melbourne, if not always in the top 50, definitely. Lower Plenty, South Yarra. So these are areas where people have bought properties and properties have risen the most in Melbourne in December quarter 23. Double-digit growth properties. So this is in Australia where suburbs over 20 years have tripled in value. So you can see there, Mulgrave in Victoria. Now, Mulgrave used to be a very bad, lower class, working blue-collar area, but it was surrounded by good suburbs and it was kind of strategically not bad located. And the houses were big blocks, you know, and it just did so well. You know, in 20 years, went up by 225.1%. Blackburn South, always been a good suburb. Further out from the city, 222,000. Somerville, yeah. Down north, wouldn't touch it, wouldn't even drive through it. Noble Park, guys, Noble Park, you need a bulletproof vest to go through there. Springvale South, not bad. Frankston South, yeah, Frankston South is good. Mont Albert. Frankston South, by the way, Frankston, two very different suburbs. And then Frankston North is obviously where the richest people live. Mont Albert's always been a top 10% suburb. And that's it for Victoria. So some areas the reason they've gone up so much, like people say, well, why did Noble Park go up so much in Frankston South and then and all? Because people do land banking there. They buy all big houses. There's always going to be some guy there from Croatia or Serbia that buys a 2,000 square meter block and, puts the big house with the lions and it has like land everywhere, right? The glass house at the back. And by the way, I got Serbian friends and Croatian friends. And, I used to play soccer. I'm Polish. So neutral, don't call me. And then eventually they get older, they want to scale down or move to Queensland, and they got this massive acreage. That's what's really pushing up prices there. And those you get subdivided into townhouses, and they put 20 townhouses in those areas. So land banking, a lot of developers buy old McMansions in these suburbs, Noble Park North, Dandenong North, and they just sit on them for years. They rent them out, and they just sit on them, and eventually they subdivide it into townhouses. Let's go through Melbourne's top 10 cheapest suburbs that I think make sense to invest in. So not the actual cheapest suburbs physically, they are cheap, but they're not the bottom of the barrel. They're kind of but they're towards the middle bottom kind of, so they're out of the 480 suburbs, they're like, they're really at the bottom, but they make sense. Okay. So Sunshine North, and you get the median price of houses, and I've got townhouses that I source there from. So Sunshine North houses go for 710, and they're like weatherboard, basic houses. I've got brand new townhouses, 2-bedders from 695. Pascoe Vale South 1.15, but townhouses 725. Reservoir 870 for houses. I remember 870 for a detached house, and that's super cheap, guys. 795 for townhouses. Croydon 905 for detached houses. 1,095,000 for townhouses. Croydon, you've got to go big, guys. You can't do a 2-bedder. You got to do 4-bedroom, almost houses, townhouses in Croydon, because it's so far out. People get away from society to live there. There's nothing really in Croydon. It's a great suburb, like it's very leafy, but people want big. Scoresby, 968 for detached houses. I've got townhouses, Scoresby from 670. Springvale's, it's still cheap. It's established as a suburb. I like Springvale. I've always liked Springvale. I've always wondered why it's so cheap. It should be more expensive. And I'm a big fan. The last 10 years, I've always consistently sold Springvale, and I think it'll do well. I've got townhouses there from $1 million, 999. Box Hill, huge fan. I mean, Box Hill's going crazy, guys. 10 years ago, the first two suburbs, when I started my company, the first two suburbs that I sourced was Box Hill and Bentley. And I can tell you now, they're the best two suburbs in performance. I mean, Box Hill's gone from 700 to 1.68 million in 10 years. It's doubled and plus. I've got now in Box Hill North and Box Hill are different. Box Hill, you can do a lot of, I've got 2-bedders. I've sold them out. They start at 725,000. The current ones that I have are all 4-bedders, 1.495 million, but I will have Box Hill again at the low sevens, mid sevens. It's just getting harder and harder to get sites. And Clayton's got Clayton Monash University, which keeps growing. It's like a huge cancer growing over the suburb. I mean, it's got its own bus stops now. I used to go to Clayton Monash and Caulfield Monash, but I used to use the library at Clayton Monash. This is way back when floppy disks were floppy, by the way. So that's how long ago, before Google. Okay, I was using Alta Vista and Hotpot. That's how old I am. And Clayton's always done okay. Yeah, I think it should do better. The problem with Clayton is it's overdeveloped now for rental accommodation for Monash University for students. So there's a bit of a stigma attached to rentals in Clayton. I'm not a fan of Clayton. It's good for rental, not so much for capital growth. Heidelberg West, phenomenal, and Heidelberg Heights, the best area, my number one suburb. So let's go down, and I'm going to show you a little bit about the commentary. I'd love to unpack each suburb for you in detail, and I'm going to unpack the number one suburb in more detail, but I can't because it'll be a 10-hour YouTube video. So I'm going to show you some things that I'll look for so you can kind of pick up what's the key fundamentals I look for in these suburbs. So Sunshine North is number 10 for value. And you can see there, house median price is 710,000. Units or apartments, 592. What I'm looking for, guys, is really household income change in 5 years, because I'm interested in change. So population growth, yeah, in 2011, 4.69%. 2016, 10% population growth. Household income has increased from 896 to 1,098. And the income has increased by 22.5. Look at the income increase, 25%, 22%. So what's happening is Sunshine North is becoming more prestigious. There's more money moving into the area. That's why I'm a big fan of Sunshine North. These are the properties. I'll just show you one example. I have over nearly 1,800 properties right now, townhouses that I've got access to. At the peak of the market, I had 3,000, but now it's down. A lot of developers are not developing at the moment for different reasons. But this is an example of a development I've got in Sunshine North. For townhouses. And remember, you want townhouses because they're brand new, high depreciation, cash flow positive or neutral, high rental yield, high depreciation, no headaches for 10 years. If you buy an old house in Sunshine North, no depreciation on fixtures and fittings or building because it was probably over 40 years old. You've got low rental yield and massive maintenance. So the whole thing that I do is very passive. I want no headaches, no phone calls. And these properties here, $695 for a 2-bedroom, 2-bathroom, single car garage, 107 square meters, plus courtyard 13.3, so 120 square meters. Number 9, Pascoe Vale South. Once again, what I'm looking for here is population growth. Okay, 2011, 9.54, 2016, 5.5. So it's slowing down. But look at the income house change, 28.4%, 26.99. So income per household has gone from 1,430 per person per week to 1,816 per person per week. So we're talking about a lot of professional white collars are going in there, which means it creates stability for the suburb and it's becoming more and more prestigious. I mean, $1,800 a week per person, that's medical, accounting, banking and finance. So that suburb is definitely value for money. Fantastic. This is an example of a townhouse development that I've got in York Street in Pascoe Vale South. And you can get in at $725 for a 2-bedroom, 2.5 bathroom, single car garage, 117.6 square meters internal. So $725,000. And these will complete in the second quarter of 2025, which is perfect. So around June, July next year when the market's recovered and going up in value. Ideally, you want to get a 3-bedroom, which is 860, 880 or 795. So great project. So this is like, guys, that's why I'm saying it's entry level, but this is like the cheapest that I would consider going into a good area where you're not getting some shit kicker for a tenant. You're getting good builder, no headaches for 10 years, cash flow positive or neutral, or slightly cash flow negative, like $50 a week or $20 a week, depending on how much tax you're paying as a person. And you're getting a great property, no headaches, no phone calls. Reservoir used to be so rough when I was growing up. I mean, if you said you live in Reservoir, you go like, seriously? And you just kind of like, where's my wallet? And now look at it. And why? Because it's green, right? The whole part of the city is green. Big blocks, lots of trees. Houses are rough. It was always entry level kind of, blue collars, but huge blocks, 800, 1,000 square meter blocks, massive redevelopment potential. Good value for money. Houses are 870, What I'm looking for is population growth, very good growth, 5.9%. Household income, good, from 2011, 974 to 1,208. But also look at the change in 5 years, 24%. So it's slowly coming up. It's not as fast as the others, but it's definitely got fundamentals there. This is a property that I have in Cheddar Road in Reservoir, and that's 795 for 2-bedders. 3-bedders are going for 995, and then up to 1,045,000. Remember, it costs the same amount to build in Reservoir as it does in Bentley. It's just the land's cheaper. It's the same brick, same design. This could be in Bentley easily, but except in Bentley, this property will be, instead of 1,045,000, be 1.6 in Bentley. So it's the same architect, same internal fixtures and fittings, same everything. Croydon. Croydon's good. Cheap suburb. Nothing wrong with it. You've got the hospital there. I used to look after that hospital. A lot of medical people, good value for money, very leafy. Croydon Hills, Croydon North. Ringwood North is fantastic, but it's a very different suburb. Even Croydon South, no problem. Ringwood's a great suburb. So once again, population growth, 14.5%, so really strong. And income per household from 1,119 to 1,355, so 21% growth. Good, solid, no-brainer. Reservoir, Croydon, Croydon Hills, Croydon North, Kilsyth. Yeah, not bad. Not bad at all. Here's an example of a property. And once again, you need larger properties there. This is in William Road in Croydon. And they're 1,095,000 for 3-bedders. And 4-bedders are going for 1.15 to 1.8. Now, it's 4-bedroom, 2.5 bathroom, double car garage. Internal area is about 166 square meters to 174 square meters, plus the outside. So you need, they're effectively little houses, guys. You can't buy a 2-bedroom little mini townhouse or apartment in Croydon because it's not St Kilda or Richmond, guys. You can't walk from anywhere. There's no cafes. There are cafe shops, but you got to drive there usually. It's not like you have Sydney Road or Brunswick Road or High Street or Centre Road there. Scoresby, same thing. It's an outer area. It's up and coming. It hasn't really taken off as much as the other suburbs. I think it's got a long way to go. Houses are 968. You can see their population changed 2%. So it hasn't taken off yet. Income household, there's a lot of detached houses there. That's why the income is higher, 1,483 to 1,616. And it's kind of it kind of had a boom at one stage and it kind of stabilized. And now it's becoming prime for another boom because people get priced out of premium suburbs. They just keep going out and out to other suburbs in Melbourne. Is an established property in Stud Road in Scoresby, 670 for 2-bedders and 899 for 4-bedders, ready to move in. That's completed 100%. They've been lived in, by the way. Springvale. I like Springvale. I'm a fan of Springvale. Some people laugh, some people don't agree. I don't care. I think Springvale's solid. I wouldn't go Noble Park North or Noble Park or Down North. Don't forget about those suburbs. But Springvale, no worries. Mulgrave, yeah. Springvale South, Clayton South, Clayton, no problem. I mean, Moorabbin's great. Moorabbin, even around DFO, which is the cheapest part of Moorabbin, next to Moorabbin Airport, no problem with Moorabbin anymore because people can't afford Bentley East. So they go to Moorabbin. That's the next suburb over. So it's one of these things where you can't lose there. If you buy well and it's a good build, you get good rental and good growth. Population change, 9.7%. Household income, 900 to 1,086. So 20% change in household income. It's growing well. It's doing really well. No problem. This is a property example of it's a duplex. So you've got basically 4 bedrooms, 22 squares. So good solid property, and they're going for about $1 million. So 4 bedrooms, 2.5 bathrooms, double lockup garage or tandem car park, 999,000, completed, ready to move into. By the way, if you're interested in any of these properties, drop me an email and I can send you more information about them. Do the cash flow analysis based on your income. Box Hill, huge fan of Box Hill. It went up too much last time. And, I used to look after the Box Hill Hospital. It's very much Chinese. They love, and the Chinese people are very interesting. They're hardworking. They don't like the stock market or cryptocurrency. All they buy is real estate and gold, so, and they work hard. And there's a huge cash industry in Box Hill as well. And there's obviously, you got your normal employees that work for, in retail right down to medical, but there's a lot of people still operating cash. Box Hill's great, it's actually boomed already, and now it's kind of coming back down. And I think it's going to go again, maybe in 2 or 3 years. You can see their population change, 18%, which is huge. They're building a lot of apartments in Box Hill right inside the city centre, which is unusual for high-density apartments to be built there. I don't know how they got the permits for that, but I don't want to ask questions. Median household, 1,029 to 1,063, which is not bad. And then they have, you can see that it's slowing down and stabilizing. Yeah, Box Hill's always, look, it's a no-brainer. I'll go for larger properties in Box Hill or 2-bedders across the road from the hospital or larger duplexes like this one here. And they're $2 and $3 million. That's an extreme example, but I have much cheaper properties for 1.3, 1.4. And then 2-bedders go from as low as 785. But I just want to show you, even in Box Hill, it has the capacity for $3 million properties. And they rent, you got to have a tax problem, though, to justify them. But they do rent, they do work. Clayton is a huge suburb. Yeah, no problems. Clayton, solid. Median house price, 1.2 million. Population change 24.5%. So Clayton's getting redeveloped constantly because Monash University Clayton campus is the biggest campus in the Southern Hemisphere. It's like a city. Like it's got its own bus stop. You drive in there, you just go, where am I? I'm in Monash University, you know. So all the accommodation is built for those students and international students. A huge suburb, effectively. So redevelopment is huge. You know, Clayton used to be old, you know, Wog McMansions, you know, with the big lines and the gates and the concrete, and now they're ripping them down and putting 10 townhouses for international students. That's the biggest thing that's happening in Clayton. It's a bit nasty with the roads there. The only thing I don't like about Clayton is Monash is there, cuts everything in half. There's massive highways, a lot of traffic. There's always, whenever you're sleeping at night in Clayton, you can hear trucks braking with their engines at night all night, you know. So there's a lot of traffic in that suburb. It's a very kind of restless suburb. You know, do I like driving through Clayton? No, I kind of want to get out of there. But fundamentally, it makes sense. There's a lot of shopping there. And there are pockets inside Clayton where they're quiet, suburban pockets. You know, if you're looking at population change, 24.5%, I mean, that's huge. That's huge. Because every time they expand Monash Clayton and business centres are getting built there as well, more people work there, more people move into there, and they're creating higher and higher density housing solutions. Household income 952 to 1,050. Household income is kind of sideways because remember, most of people in Clayton are students. Or people working inside Monash University campus. So household income still 10%, which is fine, but it's not like off the charts like it used to be. Yeah, Clayton, Clayton's all about bedrooms. So you want to buy as many bedrooms as possible because you're going to sublease them per bedroom to a student or go to Clayton Medical Centre or someone like that. You know, two-bedders are going for kind of $945. It's not cheap anymore, guys. It used to be $725. Now it's $945. $895 was the cheapest two-bedders that I've sourced. And then four-bedders are going for 1.4, 1.3. And then the five-bedders are going for, 1.3, 1.4. I like five-bedders. 5-bedroom, 4-bathroom, double lock-up garage, because you can put 5 students in there. One will share a bathroom, or 4 at the minimum. So you're going to get much more rental. You get 6%, 6.5% rent in Clayton if you put locks on the doors and they have individual en suites. So yeah, no brainer. Yeah. Heidelberg West, fantastic. This is where I'm really excited about. It hasn't taken off yet. Heidelberg West and Heights haven't taken off. They're about to take off. And this is my number one focus in Melbourne. And 10 years from now, people will be shocked how far these two suburbs have gone because it's an anomaly, guys. It's an anomaly of what's happening in these two suburbs. Heidelberg West and Heidelberg Heights are the best investment opportunities in the next 10 years, in my opinion, for value for money. I'm not talking about old money, because that's always Brighton, Hawthorne, and Toorak. I'm talking about opportunities to go from a very low entry-level price to a very high price. You can't beat it. And I'm going to unpack the number one suburb, which is Heidelberg Heights, in detail to show you what's unique about it and try to see if any of the other suburbs that you think are valuable have the same fundamental growth factors. So number one is Heidelberg West. There it is there, next to Heidelberg Heights. $725 for houses. There's which is really cheap. It's 12 to 13 k's from the city in the eastern suburbs, which is the most expensive part of Melbourne, which is Toorak, and all the schools are there and everything's there. You can see the population change, 4.4% average, above Melbourne, but not much. Income is slightly come up, so it hasn't really started yet. And then income household 23.97 over 5 years. But really, if you look at the average person, it hasn't really shifted yet as much at all. This is in Torbrook Avenue, just opposite the shopping centre. They're building a new shopping centre there, spending $500 million. So, and the offer that I have for my clients, by the way, is that with these properties, you get a 50% cash rebate for stamp duty from the developer after you settle. So if your stamp duty is 50 grand, you get 25 in cash the day after you settle from the developer. This is a great project. They're 4 bedrooms, 2.5 bathroom, double lock-up garage, 177 square meters with an external courtyard or backyard of 69.1 square meters. So 246 square meters, 955. And then I've got the back one as well, which is 4 bedroom, 3 bathroom, double car garage, 995. Great suburb, great location. $1 million for a 4-bedder in the eastern suburbs is a joke, guys. There's 4-bedders selling for $3 million in those suburbs. So, you know, you try buying something in Rosanna or one of the surrounding suburbs. It's impossible for that price. This is a really good company because the owner is actually an architect. I know him really well. He's a perfectionist. Everything that he does is really upmarket. So you're getting a premium product. Very I always like the back ones because they've got more courtyard at the back that you can use. The front ones, even though they've got a front courtyard, you can't have a barbecue in the front yard. Like you're not gonna have a barbecue here, and then people will walk by and go, "Hello, what are you eating?" Can I get a sausage roll? So what you want is the back one because then your land is usable just exclusively to you. So the back one's always the best, in my opinion. You can see their number one townhouse, very good configuration, by the way. You've got double garage, open plan living, laundry, powder room, storage. But you've got a bit of front yard, but really it's where it's fenced off. It's only this strip that's private. This frontage you can't use because, as I mentioned, everyone can see you. Upstairs you've got 4 bedroom and 2 en suites, so really good configuration. I like especially number 4 because you have, even though you got a tandem car park, double's always better. Because if you got 2 cars, you got to get the front one. Can you get the Tirana out and get the Holden? So you need to move the back one to get the front one. Anyway, open plan living. See, the whole courtyard at the back is yours to use. So you can have a barbecue, you can have a party there, you can have a trampoline. It's all privacy. You've got a bedroom downstairs, which is great because a lot of people want 1 bedroom to be downstairs for Zoom meetings or team meetings, or a guest bedroom with an ensuite, open plan living, kitchen, and then you have upstairs 3 bedrooms with 2 en suites. So that's 112 square meters for the ground. First floor 70. So really good configuration, great properties. Yeah, and good level of fixtures and fittings. That's what they look like inside. So the builder's range, but you've got 900 mil appliances from Miele or Smeg. And look, Heidelberg West, 12 k's from the city, 12 kilometers. So remember we talked about the median price dropping off after 15. So it's within that range. You've got 19.5 kilometers from Melbourne Airport, 1 kilometer from La Trobe University, and 850 meters from the Austin Hospital. The Austin Hospital is huge. You've got 9,500 medicals there. I used to look after when I was a Medfin. It's a massive draw card. So you've got prime education, 900 employees at the health centre there. You've got 4 main train stations and massive employment hub. And look, it's very green and leafy. You got the best schools in Melbourne in the surrounding suburbs, the best Anglican schools, private schools. You got cafes that are 50, 100 years old. You've got trains to the city, very good commute. It ticks all the boxes. It's surrounded by superior suburbs in every direction. I mean, Eaglemont, for a 4-bed in Eaglemont, you're looking at 1.8, 1.9 million. And once again, cash pay, so you got a rebate there of 50% of stamp duty. And 4-bedders are going for 995, which is what I recommend to buy in those suburbs. 4-bedroom, because then you're catering for the medical sector or a La Trobe University. Heidelberg Heights is my number 1 suburb for value for money in Melbourne that's cheap today, going to get very expensive in the future, but you can still get in at a very reasonable level without compromising the risk of getting a dodgy tenant. Now, you can get dodgy tenants anyway, but I'm saying en masse, they just don't rent in those areas. As long as you screen them correctly, and this is why the onus of screening them is so important. You got to get a really good property manager that do the research. They ring up, confirm employment. They check the tenancy tribunal database to make sure they've rented in the past. Make sure they've left the previous property in an acceptable state. They got the bond return in full. All those things. Okay. No mobile numbers, no mates, no private rentals, which don't exist. None of that bullshit. We know all the tricks, right? So look at the stats here. Population change, negative population change. Why? Because developers are buying up houses and they're emptying them and they're holding them and redeveloping them. So it's actually at the beginning of the change that hasn't happened yet. Household income's already gone up. from 1,150 to 1,400 per week. And it will go up to 1,800 and 2,000, no problem. So it's changed by 21.84%. Now, why invest in Heidelberg West and Heights? This is the reason. Number one, it's a beautiful part of Melbourne because you have massive parks, massive amounts of greenery, which you can't have in the west or the north to that extent. So number one is just geographical location is superior. This is what Melbourne is really the Bayside, you got the beach, and the eastern suburbs, you got the trees. That's the cool thing about these two areas. So you got number one is leafy surrounds. Proximity to the city is 12 kilometers, right? You're around the corner, a couple of k's from La Trobe University, 850 meters from Austin Hospital. Your number one tenant, guys, during recessions, depressions, is medical doctors and nurses. High income, responsible people. Do you think you're going to see a nurse that comes home and bashes holes in the wall, or has drinks a slab of beer and then goes to work the next day? It's not going to happen. These are highly responsible people, highly educated, and they're in very good money, so the rental's never an issue either. You got Northland Shopping Centre, low vacancy rate of 0.7%, massive growth. Townhouses are growing at 12%, 11%, houses going around 9%. Transport's phenomenal. I'll unpack that further. $5 billion innovation cluster. I'll cover that in a second. And Heidelberg West Business Park. Now, the cool thing about Heidelberg Western Heights is that you got the city here, and as you get further out, every suburb around there is more expensive than Heidelberg Heights and Western Heights. So Rosanna median price is 1.2, Heidelberg is 1.4, Eaglemont's 2.3. And look, there's properties in Eaglemont that have sold for $5 million. Ivanhoe, great suburb, 1.6. And Ivanhoe, there's many homes for 2.53 million. Thornbury's 1.4, right? And then you got Heidelberg Heights and West, 890 for houses. Townhouses are a little bit more expensive because the original houses very small, very basic. 12 k's from the city, 19 k's from Melbourne Airport, 1 k from La Trobe University, 850 meters from Austin Hospital. So 850 meters means you can walk there, which is a great advantage for doctors and nurses and medical specialists. La Trobe University has 40,000 people. So there's no correlation between capital growth and location of university campuses. There's only capital growth correlation between private schools and location of houses, high schools. So like, for example, McKinnon High. If you're in the McKinnon High catchment area in McKinnon, you'll probably be worth more and grow faster than if you're outside the catchment area. University campus, there's no value add. But what it does do is drain the rental market because these students coming from overseas, they can't get mortgages. They're here for 3 or 4 years. They want to rent, and they want to rent very close around the area. So you got 40,000 staff and students there at La Trobe University. They're coming in cashed up, ready to rent your property. That's a huge thing, guys. Huge for rental, which is a huge risk, right? Because if you don't get the rental, you're going to be stuffed. Number two is you got the Austin Hospital, which is 850 meters down the road, 9,000 employees. They just did an extension to one of the wings. You have people there making huge amounts of money, and a lot of first-year doctors that don't want to commit to a mortgage. They don't know where they're going to be living. So they want to target a medical specialist area and just move in, get their career on track, and then rent something around the corner. A lot of them, by the way, don't even drive. They want to be able to Uber or walk ideally to a property. That's why when I was at Medfin, doing medical specialist lending, commercial lending, asset finance for NAB, I got to know most of the hospitals in Melbourne, including regional ones like the Bendigo Hospital. And that's why I've realized that the best rentals you can always ever get is across the road from a hospital, because they're always tenanted. There's always a endless supply of medical people. And as the population of Melbourne swells, there's more and more demand for doctors and nurses. Northland Shopping Centre, which is a huge established shopping centre just in that area, consisting of 330 shops. And then you got a major shopping area, which is your traditional cafes and your retail, which is 3 kilometers of shops in Burgundy Street. So you've got all the cafes, restaurants, chemists, Coles, everything, right? Which is fantastic. So if you want to do your shopping in the winter, you go to the Northland. In the summer, you want to catch up with friends over coffee. And see, this is what's missing in Point Cook and Truganina and all those areas, except in Berwick. In Berwick, there's Old Berwick, which has that. But in Truganina, Tarneit, there is no shopping centres, cafe strips. There's shopping centres, but there's no cafe walk-in strips where you have lifestyle areas where you can walk down for 2 or 3 kilometres, have lunch and dinner with your friends and hang out. Low vacancy rates of 0.62%. 54% of people rent there, so there's a huge rental market in the area. Very much younger demographics. Heidelberg Heights and West are virtually the same, just so you know. They kind of overlap in a lot of ways. They're just next door to each other. Train transport 2 kilometers from a train station, 2.6 kilometers from Heidelberg. So Rosanna is 2 k's away, which is a train station. 2.6 from Heidelberg train station, 4 meters from McLeod train station. 4 minutes, I think that is. I don't think it's 4 meters. I think it's 4 meters. That would be a disaster. It's 4 minutes. Buses as well, so you've got buses in case something happens with trains. And then you got the 5 billion innovation cluster. So you've got a huge boasting economy where there's a lot of, especially with housing, and there's a lot of money being spent on the business center, which is the Heidelberg West Business Park, where there's going to be 4,500 employees. And this is for companies and startups that want to have office space, hot desks and flexible floor plans so you can do a startup company. So it's going to be like an incubation center for startups and new companies who, we can just start up and have a desk and pay by the hour and use a boardroom. And then you can have a small room, small office, up to a large office with staff, and eventually you move out of there and get your own building. Great suburb, great location, everything's fantastic. Heidelberg Heights, so once again, the fundamentals are there. Income has gone up by 21.84% in 5 years, and household income per person, 1,154 to 1,400, and that's going to go to 1,800 and then 2,000. That's why it's my number one suburb for value for money. Now, what can you get? Okay, so this is an example in 16 Spencer Street, Heidelberg Heights. You can get a 3-bedroom, a 3-bathroom, tandem car park, or 1-car garage and tandem car space for $895. And you get a 50% rebate on stamp duty at settlement as well. 4-bedders are going from $995 to $1,025,000. Rents are very strong. They're virtually cash flow neutral or positive. This is an example of one. Great architect developer, once again. These are the internals. These are artist impressions and photos of previous developments. And this is no body corporate. There's no common land there, so they're all in separate titles. Once again, it's a great one. You've got your own private little bit of land on the side. Downstairs, you've got a single car garage and another car space off the street. Open plan living downstairs, kitchen, island bench top, powder room, laundry. And then upstairs, you got 4 bedrooms, 2 en-suites with a balcony. Fantastic development. This one in particular here, you're looking at 235 square meters internal, including private land. And that's 4 bedroom, 2.5 bathroom, 1 car plus 1 car off-street parking. Here's another example. That's a really nice one. So that's lot 3. So you can see that you got 1 bedroom downstairs. I particularly like the plan where there's a bedroom downstairs with its own ensuite, and then upstairs you got 3 bedrooms. So you got that separation of space. So either use upstairs for your private bedroom and you have a Zoom room and a Teams room. And then downstairs you can have a spare room, or you can have your office downstairs, or vice versa. A lot of elderly people don't want to be walking upstairs, so they have the bedroom downstairs and they might have spare rooms upstairs. So it's a more flexible plan. It works really well. This one here, by the way, so that's $895. That's a 3-bedroom one. By the way, if you're interested in any of these properties, guys, drop me an email. Conrad@investorsprime.com.au, or simply give me a call on the mobile, 0499 555 899, and I can reserve one for you. I can send you the information. We can catch up on Zoom. I can discuss your needs and show you what I have available. I've got endless supplies of properties. All I do is source these properties all day long for my private clients. The timing now is very specific, guys, and that's why I'm doing live events now, because where we are in the property cycle is very interesting. In fact, right now, and the property cycle moves in different phases. You've got the peak of the market, the decline, the bottom, and the growth of the market, and then get the peak again. Now, the most growth you have is from kind of 9 o'clock to 12 o'clock. That's when you have huge amounts of growth. And where we are at the moment in Melbourne is right there. We're going from 7 o'clock to 9 o'clock, which is still good value, but the price is still reasonable, even though they're going up. Right, and 2-bedders will go up by 50 grand in 12 months. 3-bedders will go up by 70 to 100, and four bedders will go up to about 100. The biggest growth is 9 o'clock to 12 o'clock. So you want to have as much property as possible at 9 o'clock, which I think will happen mid next year to late next year. And then it's going to boom for 2 or 3 years. It will go double digits. And then it will stop at 12 and go down, even go down by 5 or 10%. So whatever you do now, you want to get into the market as quickly as possible and hold as much property when the property market goes from 9 to 12, which is majority of the growth over a 10-year period of time. That's why people sometimes buy a property and they have 3 years later, has it gone up in value at all? And then 4 years later, it's gone up a little bit. And you go, where's the growth? And then suddenly, from 9 to 12, they get 300,000 in growth. And the average is 8% over 10 years. So majority of the growth actually doesn't happen. It's not equally distributed throughout the property cycle. It actually happens from 9 to 12, which is the biggest chunk of the growth. Now, I'm not a big fan of timing the market, but if you can time the market, I'm a big fan of time in the market. But if you can time the market, that's nice because it can set you up for the next decade or two. Yes, it's always nice to buy at the bottom. If you've been watching my YouTube videos, I always said this is the bottom, go in hard now. And ironically, a lot of times we find yourself in the bottom, you can't borrow money, you can't get equity, it's the wrong time to invest. So this is what's happening right now. We had the bottom in 23, and now we're going into the next growth phase. This is going to be a huge one because we've just allowed, because of the Labor government, 590,000 migrants in the country. So remember, those migrants are working, they're renting. Once they do their first year tax returns, which will be 24s and 25s for a lot of them, then they can apply for a loan and they're all going to be buying houses. So what do you think is going to happen to stock? Well, there's no stock available anywhere at the moment in Melbourne. We had 2,000 developers and builders go bust and no one's building anything in good suburbs. There's a massive shortage of stock. Like before COVID, I had access to 3,000 properties. Now I'm down to 1,300. So even like my stock, 1,300, 1,400, my access to developers and stock has gone less than half. Like I've got 40% of what I used to have. A lot of developers also do shelving projects because escalating costs of construction and fuel. So yeah, it's always great to buy at the bottom, but we've moved past the bottom now. We're going from 7 o'clock to 9 o'clock. So now it's well and truly the time to get in from a timing perspective. Inflation is on track as well. I think you're going to be seeing rate cuts end of this year and then substantial ones next year because people are doing it tough. And remember, dollar cost averaging, I talked about this in another YouTube video. Buy as much as you can, often as you can. It's not about getting the timing perfect, but if you're going to talk about timing, well, now it's the time to go. I hope you enjoyed the video, guys. Now, if you want to follow on with this journey and if you want to become an expert on property investing, there's a number of things that I will suggest you do. If you're interested in learning more, and remember, learning, it's all about education and implementation. And the difference between you today and 2 years from now is the people that you meet and the books that you read and the seminars and workshops that you attend. So number one is we're running a 2-day event in a couple of weeks called the Real Estate Investing Fast Track Weekend, which we run from time to time in my office here in St Kilda. It's Cameron Fisher, myself, and Stephen McClutchy from Director of Loans Australia. So we've been doing this for a long time. Cameron's been in real estate for 40 years, myself 25, same with Stephen, going on to 30 years. This is not our first time around. We've seen it all. We've seen all the property cycles from peaks to bottoms. We've seen people overextend themselves and crash. We've seen people make really intelligent decisions. We go through a lot of case studies. The event basically will cover how to build and structure and automate a massive $1 million property portfolio from scratch in your spare time. So this system is designed for professional couples that are time poor. You don't want to renovate properties. You don't want to do subdivisions. You just want to buy and hold blue chip properties in the best suburbs in Melbourne. And I'm going to show you exactly with laser-like precision where these properties are and where these suburbs are. You can go out there and do it yourself, or you can use my services. All I do is source properties for my private clients all day long. That's all I do. I'm going to talk about the differences between house and land, townhouse and apartments, which areas work, which don't. We're also going to talk about how to slash thousands of dollars in interest off your current mortgage, how to do a mortgage reduction program. So if you never invest in your life and just have one house and you want to slash your mortgage from 30 years to 15, this is the event you got to attend. If you're going to do one thing this year, guys, and you can save 200,000 or 300,000 off your mortgage, why wouldn't you do it? It's crazy. Yes, it's 2 days of your time, but how much time are you going to waste paying 200,000 after tax to the bank? I mean, I wish I could teach this to every Australian. It should be, as far as I'm concerned, it should be compulsory education at school on how to do a mortgage reduction program. I don't know why they don't teach it. It's been around forever, but just people don't know about it. Everyone just does normal loans. So I'm going to show you how to do that, how to special mortgage, and then with the savings, how to use that to build your own empire of property investing. We're also going to talk about 18 ways to supercharge your borrowing capacity, 19 critical questions to ask a mortgage broker, how to assemble a team of experts around you, 12 most common deadly property investing mistakes, and how it can set you back years and thousands in unnecessary expenses, an understanding of balancing your property portfolio between cash flow positive and growth properties, and also how to beat the bank at their own game, and how to understand serviceability ratios and how the banks work out how much money you can borrow, basically. So if you're interested, jump onto realestatefasttrack.com.au. Tickets are $47, guys, plus you get a hard copy of my book, which is the best-selling book, Australian Real Estate Investing Made Simple, which is a big, thick book. It'll stop a bullet if you have a home invasion, not that you want to, or a machete. But also, this is the manual for your blueprint for how to smash your mortgage on your house, and also how to buy lots of investment properties that have the potential to eventually set you free and give you financial independence. So it's fully catered for 2 days as well. We do provide lunch on both days. Look, $47, guys. We're not making money out of the event. It just covers our lunch and the book, basically. So it's just, we want to break even on these things. I do them because I love doing them, and we also get a lot of clients out of these events for property management, for lending, and for my property sourcing company, Investors Prime Real Estate. The information there's no hype. It's all practical information, and we're all investors. We're all doing it for real in Melbourne right now. Also, guys, if you can't attend the event, jump onto my special home study online video course, which is a recording of the event, just the beginning of COVID. It's worth $497. It's super easy to access. You can just jump on, instant access, first name, email, 15 hours of content, and a 433-page manual. And it covers pretty much the same stuff, except there's obviously the market's moved on, so you haven't got the same detail in where we are in the property cycle. We obviously, interest rates have changed, so that information is going to be outdated. So 70% of it is still current, and 30% is going to be outdated. You can access that instantly. Now, after that, if you want to have a session with me, I'm offering you a 60-minute strategy session where we can take an idea, turn it into a plan and action. So this is where I basically sit down with people on Zoom and go through your current situation, work out where you are, where you want to be in the future, and I'll show you how to get from A to B with the least amount of effort, maximum results. Remember, if you fail to plan, you plan to fail. A lot of people waste so much time by going from A to B like this, and they end up 10 years later having no properties, more debt, more credit card debt, more bad debt, no good debt. I want to show you how you can get from A to B with the least amount of effort, maximum efficiency. It's a 1 hour personalized strategy session with myself, and you're going to walk away with a clear understanding of the strategies and actions that you need to take to bridge the gaps and achieve financial objectives. You also get an introduction to my whole team. So you get my whole team, which is what you need. You need a good accountant, good solicitor, good financial planner, right down to property management, building inspections, conveyancing. So I'll show you how to assemble a team. They're all in Melbourne, and they're the best in their industry. Honestly, guys, just for the mortgage reduction program, and I'll cover this in my event as well. And also, just to get the introduction to my team is worth having in a 60-minute strategy session. So you walk away with a real strategy, paint by the numbers. So it's literally foolproof. Like, it's step 1, step 2, step 3. Now, there is qualification, because the cheapest properties that I source are $695. You need to be at least you need to qualify for a $700,000 purchase. You can get that independently qualified somewhere from a bank. Or you need to be about, if you're a single person, you need to be about 95 grand a year with about 112,000 in equity or cash savings, and then couple about 140 combined. So you can borrow about 700,000. I understand serviceability is an issue now, because 12 months ago, you would have been on less income and you could have borrowed up to $1 million on the same income. So yes, serviceability has decreased by hundreds of thousands for a lot of people. It is unfortunate, but that's all I source in those cheap suburbs. I don't go beyond those suburbs because I make sure that you get a good experience. If you're interested in having a discussion with me and having a strategy session, just email me conrad@investorsprime.com.au and just put free strategy session request and just your details, and I'll send you my availability. We can organize a mutually convenient time to catch up on Zoom. That's it from me, guys. Thank you very much for listening to this video. I hope you enjoy the content. This is Conrad Babilak. I'll see you on the inside.